faded the country's forecasts.
Well, the forecast the RBA has outlined is now consistent with the forecast we had in the budget.
I think the RBA made the case indirectly for voting Labor.
Climate change also big for voters, with several protests during the campaign. Divisions in the major parties driving some voters towards alternative options.
We want to see politics done differently. We don't want to see the continuation of this broken two-party system.
People just don't feel that they are represented and local communities aren't represented.
The campaign also driving some to tears.
Just because you're not part of some fact-slapping boys club doesn't mean you should give up.
The race finally coming into focus.
Myself or Bill Shorten.
Voters left to decide who'll cross the finish line.
All right, Ryan is back with us. And Ryan, are you ready to call it?
Oh, it's still too close to call, Melissa. But if you do believe the polls, then Labor may just get a narrow win over the Liberal National Coalition. The latest poll, which was released today, puts Labor on 51% of voters' support compared to the Liberal National Coalition on just over 48%. And a Labor win could mean good news for New Zealanders living on this side of the Tasman. The party's promise to review the rights of New Zealanders who move here. Currently, when Kiwis land in Australia, they're put on a temporary visa, which means they don't get the same access to health, education and welfare, unlike Australians who move to New Zealand.
Right, thanks, Ryan. 2 hours to the booths close. An interesting night ahead. That's Australia correspondent Ryan Boswell. $12 million of the government's wellbeing budget will go towards providing initiatives to tackle rheumatic fever. The funding will target Māori and Pacific Islanders because those two groups make up 94% of all rheumatic fever cases, with the latest data showing the rates increasing. Rheumatic fever is a preventable illness which starts off with a strep throat, and if left untreated, it can lead to serious and lifelong heart problems.
The DHBs and the Ministry of Health will sit down and co-design these initiatives with Māori as well as Pacific providers to ensure that we actually reach the targets of Māori and Pacific communities.
More than 2/3 of rheumatic fever cases happen in Auckland. A doctor shortage in Northland has reached crisis point, with patients being turned away or waiting weeks for an appointment. Those in the private health sector say they're overworked, burnt out, and patients are suffering. Helen Castles reports.
Evelyn's 7-year-old grandson has just moved to Kaitaia. He has an earache but can't see a doctor.
I don't think it should be a life-threatening sickness in order for my grandson to be seen by a doctor, because that's probably what it's going to take.
All 3 Kaitaia medical clinics have stopped taking new patients. Their books are full, and it's a problem across the far north.
It's very serious, and I know that none of us are very happy to have our doors closed, but it has become a bit of a safety issue.
Patients who are registered are waiting up to 4 weeks for an appointment. Broadway Health has nearly 3,000 patients to 1.2 full-time doctors.
My fear is that due to the amount of work we have and dealing with the amount of patients we have with the limited resources, that we're going to miss something big.
It's the same at the clinic next door.
I was here 3 hours a night on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'll probably be here 3 hours a night just catching up on work there too.
It costs around $15 to see a doctor that you're registered to here in the north, and around $50 if you're not registered. But with the cost and the fact that clinics are now turning patients away, increasing numbers are expected at Kaitaia's emergency department. The District Health Board says the doctor shortage is a rural problem nationwide, and while it's not the DHB's responsibility, it'll work with communities to find a solution.
At the end of the day, unfortunately, it will become a DHB problem if we're not properly resourced in primary care.
The doctors here are burnt out and burnt off. They need a hand. This community needs a hand. And what we need up here essentially is more funding to fund more doctors.
In the meantime, the DHB says it'll provide a non-urgent service to those unable to see a private doctor.
The longer you leave it, well, naturally you're going to get worse. And then what do we do then? Who do we blame?
Families say they can't wait much longer. Helen Castles, One News.
The Mayor of Lower Hutt has criticised the government's decision on Wellington's transport at the opening of a National Party conference. Ray Wallace made the comments at the new Lower Hutt Event Centre. He says while the government pledged nearly $4 billion earlier this week for transport upgrades in the Wellington region, some projects have been left on the back burner, like the Melling interchange.
I, as Mayor, am deeply concerned about the recent government delays to this major transport improvement project, which hinders the economic potential of this region.
National's Lower North Island MPs were later asked to outline what they believe to be the most important issue in their region right now. All chose roads and transport. The joint venture to bring more reliable public transport to Auckland, especially to the airport, has taken another step forward. A contract's been awarded for work to start on a $60 million interchange in South Auckland, but critics are calling it short-sighted and a waste of money. Kimberly Downs reports.
It's hardly the way Phil Goff wanted this announcement to start.
We can have a railway line like you can Paisley.
A handful of protesters greeting Auckland's Mayor and the Transport Minister as they outlined the next step in their plan to turn the South Auckland station into a modern interchange, a reliable link to get people from the city to the south and onto the airport on public transport.
It's going to give guaranteed times for the workers and to the visitors going to the airport and the airport precinct.
From Britomart in Auckland CBD, it takes just over half an hour to travel by train to Puhinui Station. Once this part of the wider rapid transit plan is in place, it will then be 10 minutes from the station to the airport on either buses or light rail. The interchange is costing $60 million, with the government chipping in 45 through the NZTA and the rest of the money coming from Aucklanders' rates and the regional fuel tax.
This is one of the best investments of $60 million that we could make.
But protesters say it's short-sighted.
Given that the Aucklanders have said that they want a fast train to the airport, that money could go towards building a direct rail connection to the airport.
It would not deliver rapid transit to any new communities. And it just doesn't rate as a priority given all of the other important investments we have to make.
Work's set to begin on the Puhinui interchange in October, and they're hoping it'll be completed within 18 months of construction starting. A station on track for change, one part of the ongoing bid to ease Auckland's public transport woes. Kimberly Downs, One News.
Cockle Bay in East Auckland could be in danger of losing the very thing it's named after. Residents say people are wiping the beach of its shellfish and are warning of long-term damage to the bay if the practice isn't stopped. Chris Chang explains.
Low tide at Cockle Bay means high numbers of people digging, scooping, hunting for cockles. And with no shortage of signage, the limit is well known.
I think everybody knows each one got a 50 limit.
50 per person.
But residents are concerned too many people are flocking to the beach, sometimes hundreds per day.
So there's a big concern in the area that one day we just won't be able to get any cockles there at all.
Jim Holt's been coming to this East Auckland beach for years to collect shellfish.
My wife loves them, and that's what it's all about.
Even he wants to see the beach closed to collection for a few years to prevent people exceeding the quota.
People hide stuff on the rocks, come back later and get them. And this has been going on for ages. If this keeps up, I reckon we'll destroy the beds.
For the past 6 months, people haven't been allowed to take cockles from the beach here, but the season is now open, so for the past couple of weekends, families have been down here digging for that prized shellfish.
Now, getting cockles like that, they're nice. But you give it another 3 or 4 weeks, you won't see those. They'll be gone.
MPI says its last survey in 2016 revealed the seabeds here were in a healthy condition. But locals don't want to wait until the next survey before tougher action is taken.
You can leave something for 3 years and then go and do a survey on it, but then it's too late, and that's what they did at Eastern Beach. That's a good example, because now that's closed 15 years.
A fate residents and visitors alike want to avoid. Are you going to have them for dinner?
Yes!
To ensure Cockle Bay continues to live up to its name. Chris Chang, One News.
A fighter jet crashes into a warehouse in California, leaving lucky workers stunned by their close call.
That's a military airplane in our building.
And next, what the plane was carrying, which could have made this crash much worse. It's seems like the healthier option, right? But new research claims drinking 100% fruit juice could send you to an early grave. Plus, it's the quirky singing competition watched by hundreds of millions.
Love is forever. Is forever whenever you are.
Why Eurovision's location this year has organisers warning entrants to keep their political views quiet.
One is the place to be. Tonight at 7, it's Britain's Got Talent.
I couldn't stop smiling from start to finish.
Then love is on the menu in Dinner Date.
Beautiful.
And later, Manifest. That's one. They're risking death to get the perfect shot.
Well, it's freedom, it's adrenaline. I feel heart beating.
Social media fame, but at what cost?
And they slid the picture over to us. It's the only thing that survived.
That's on Sunday, this week on One.
Awesome. So does anyone have any questions? Yes.
Does buying a special treat for an imaginary friend, say an elephant, count as sharing or spending?
ASB Get Wise, teaching kids to be cash clever in over 1,500 schools nationwide. A sprinkle here.
A dollop there.
A bit of passion.
Love.
And care.
Lose some sugar.
And some salt. 2 additives, let's put a halt. For food that really fits the bill.
And keeps us smiling at the till.
There's no point being in the dark.
The values in this little market.
It sizzles.
Melts. Oh wow, it foams.
It's made of pride.
That's Countdown Zone.
It bubbles. Crunches.
How it splits.
Want to make it yours?
We can help with that.
Is your sense of adventure in a dish, a leap, a chuckle, or a beat? Is it somewhere you never knew existed? Wherever your sense of adventure takes you, we're here to help. Southern Cross Travel Insurance. Free your adventure.
Hello, chocolate lovers. James Henry Whittaker came to New Zealand because he was restless to find a better way. It's something that Whittakers have stuck to, generation after generation, for well over 100 years. And now Andrew and Brian have made a luscious new caramel filling. It's creamier, more buttery and velvety. Better in every way, just as JH would expect.
Exactly. Well said.
So, unlike a turbo or a centrifugal blower, we're not trying to compress air. We're just simply giving the engine more air than it needs. So, we use 2 rotors inside of the case here, and these rotors are reload and they do it in opposing directions. So what we're going to do is as air comes into the case, the rotors are going to grab the air and pull it around this outside door here, dumping it out through our bottom outlet of the supercharger. So how do we classify it? We have cubic inch classifications as well as 71 classifications. So for cubic inch, we have 192 and 250 blowers, and those are 192 and 250 cubic inches respectively. This is a 671 blower. Now the 71 classification goes way back to the days of Detroit diesels, where you have a classification like 671 would be a Detroit diesel with 6 cylinders, 71 cubic inches per cylinder. So this would have been on a 6-cylinder. Now we do 671, 871, 1071, 1471 variants with race and XR options as well as standard. So we have 2 openings at the top and 2 openings at the bottom. And this is also kitted out with a 3-lobe 60-degree billet. So the Root Supercharger, not a new design, but we're here trying to continue to make it better, improve it, and give you the best possible product. Thank you for watching.
Like a boy, baby. Need to feed him. Come on, baby.
The new series, Wife Swap New Zealand, coming soon on 2.
Welcome back. A new build on Wellington's waterfront has won a big award for its high earthquake safety rating. The PwC building far exceeds the building code, and the council's taking note. Gia Garrick has more.
Completed last year, a first in seismic design for New Zealand. A combination of base isolation and 1,200 flight augured piles means the PwC building can withstand multiple types of earthquake.
An earthquake of a certain size and a magnitude, those rubber plates and metal plates can shim across horizontally and actually allows the building to move to dissipate the forces throughout the building.
And it's built to ensure people can return to work straight away.
The services such as simple toilet runs or waste runs here are actually isolated through a service of bendy and flexible pipes.
This is a step up for this type of building, particularly in seismically active areas such as Wellington.
It's built just a kilometre from Wellington's Civic Square, where buildings remain closed due to fears they'll come down should an earthquake rock the capital like in 2016. The council looking closely at its options.
The benefit from base isolation is if you start at the beginning of the construction process, it doesn't necessarily cost that much more. If you're retrofitting a building like the Town Hall or the old Bank Arcade, it costs more, but it gets you security and knowledge that you can perform best in the future.
The Town Hall is currently being re-strengthened, but its costs have blown out already to $112 million. A decision's yet to be made on whether Wellington's library will go through the same process or be completely rebuilt, and there's even concern for the iconic city-to-sea bridge.
The issue about whole of life is something that's becoming much more front of mind, and I hope that Wellington City will be thinking about that. It can be a real false economy to go for the cheapest price and then find over time that the building doesn't perform.
Hope a success story like this one could help shape a safer capital city. Gia Garrick, One News.
It was absolute hell. That's how one soldier described the brutal battles of Cassino during World War II. Almost 350 Kiwis died, and those who survived were forever changed. Ceremonies have been held in the Italian town to mark 75 years since its liberation from Nazi forces. Europe correspondent Joy Reid is there.
On top of the rocky hill half a world away, which cost thousands of Allies' lives to capture, the sights and sounds of Aotearoa inside the famed Monte Cassino Abbey. The last surviving member of the 28th Māori Battalion who fought in Cassino, 94-year-old Robert Gillies, front and centre at the third and final Kiwi service marking the 75th anniversary. Many others there with personal connections to the battles.
And I'm wearing my grandfather's medals that he earned during World War II. Over here we have the police star. Very proud, very, very proud.
But when you see the places that your own ancestors, in my case my grandfather, have fought, you just think, gosh, what they did for us and the freedom that we enjoy now is something that both needs to be celebrated, but also we need to continue to protect it.
It's been an emotional 2 days.
It's a moment of pride, but it's a moment of deep sorrow.
The Minister of Defence clearly moved.
It's hard to walk amongst these headstones and not immediately connect with New Zealand families that you know. We paid a price.
Each of the services here has offered a different type of reflection and remembrance, not just on the fallen, but also those that returned home and suffered for the rest of their life after experiencing the horrors here.
We used to love playing with this scar.
Juliana Keefe's father and 3 uncles served in Cassino. Her father was scarred physically, but also mentally.
If I was down the street and I saw my uncles, I'd hide in the shop because they were drunk and I didn't understand. Now, 67 years old, I understand why they did what they did, what they saw.
The Italian campaign is sometimes called the Forgotten Front, but today everyone who suffered there was remembered. And the only Kiwi left who truly remembers was honoured by a grateful generation.
Probably the last time we ever do that haka for one of the 28th Māori Battalion was still alive.
As years go by, it's a privilege few others will get. Joy Reid, One News, Cassino.
Harrowing details have been released about the murder of a pregnant teenager whose unborn child was cut from her. As the ABC's Alex Perez reports, the 19-year-old was lured to her death by the promise of free baby clothes.
Tonight, a judge in Chicago ordering the defendants accused in the brutal murder of pregnant 19-year-old Marlene Ochoa Lopez held without bond. Prosecutors describing in chilling detail how Clarissa Figueroa allegedly wanted to kill the young mother for weeks, enlisting her daughter, Desiree.
Defendant Clarissa told defendant Desiree that she needed help.
killing a pregnant woman and taking a baby.
Prosecutors allege Clarissa Figueroa first lured the pregnant mother to her home through Facebook in early April with the promise of free baby clothes. But they say the daughter's boyfriend threatened to call police if they went through with the plan. Ochoa Lopez returning for clothes 3 weeks later when police say Figueroa strangled her and removed the baby from her body. Moments later, that call to 911 about a woman who had just given birth.
The baby isn't breathing. The baby is pale and blue. They're doing CPR.
Tonight, Ochoa Lopez's family demanding justice.
His family is living through a nightmare. Today, there is only one message that the family has: justice for Marlene.
Tornado Valley is living up to its name with a handful of twisters touching down today, part of a weather system expected to hammer 17 states across America over the next few days. Giant hailstones pelted parts of Colorado and Illinois, while in Iowa, lightning storms accompanied winds pushing 140 kilometres an hour. It's estimated 70 million people will be affected by the storms. It's been revealed an F-16 fighter jet that crashed through a California warehouse yesterday was armed with missiles and hundreds of rounds of ammunition. The pilot ejected safely just before impact, and amazingly, no one inside the building was seriously injured. The ABC's Matt Gutman reports.
Tonight, we learned that F-16 that sliced through a Southern California warehouse was armed with live munitions.
Military crews have secured the armament package, which will be properly disposed of.
The jet punching through this warehouse roof.
That's a military airplane in our building.
Stunned workers surveyed the damage. The pilot ejecting while trying to return from a routine mission. The seat, canopy, and parachute landing right off the runway, but the plane banking hard left, disappearing into that industrial zone home to businesses like Amazon and Cisco Foods. The crash late in the workday Thursday did not trigger a fire.
I heard the explosion, I turned around, and I just seen the burst of flames from the top of the corner of the building, and I just seen the ceiling from all over the building just start collapsing, and then the sprinklers were going off.
But those workers had no idea there were possibly hundreds of 20mm cannon rounds and air-to-air missiles on board. The military setting up a 3/4 mile evacuation zone last night, shutting down a nearly 4-mile stretch of a freeway, and initially refusing to say why.
So does the Air Force not know whether or not there was ammunition or live ordnance on that plane?
The Air Force...
Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying that.
You're saying you do know, but you're not willing to say.
At this time, again, I'm mentioning that safety is our utmost priority.
The F-16 was part of the Noble Eagle mission.
And that means to go out and intercept aircraft that are not talking to air traffic control, that may be running drugs, or to prevent another 9/11.
That aircraft severed a sprinkler system, but did not explode on impact. Its tail could be seen just above the wreckage. Miraculously, no major injuries reported.
And that F-16 is designed to disarm any bombs on board when the pilot ejects from his seat. And because it had little fuel left, there was no fire, which could have set off the munitions. Drinking more than a cup of fruit juice a day could increase your risk of an early death, according to a new study. The American research suggests even 1.5 cups of juice a day can cause weight gain, making people more susceptible to heart disease and diabetes. The fructose content of fruit juice can drive up insulin resistance and stimulate hormones that promote fat deposits around our waists. The cheesy, quirky music competition, that is the Eurovision Song Contest, promises to become a political protest this year. It's been held in Israel, the final due to begin in around 12 hours' time. But it's feared pro-Palestinian campaigners will be the ones dominating the headlines. BBC's David Silito has more.
Welcome to the Eurovision Song Contest 2019.
Israel and the week-long Eurovision party now in full swing.
Live from Tel Aviv, Israel.
But remember, all this is happening against a background of considerable political tension on the border with Gaza, which raises issues of security. Will there be protests? And also, will people turn up? Well, as you can see, the crowds are here. But even amongst some of the entrants, there are questions.
This is Iceland's Hartery, and they have qualms about Israel, but have been told no politics on or off stage.
We've been warned. We've been told we've reached the limit of the EU's tolerance regarding politics. But at the same time, we're told they can't change our views.
Indeed, Eurovision bosses were today making their position more than clear. If a competitor staged a protest, what would you do?
Well, we would intervene immediately. You know, we have very strict rules and policies around this.
You'd shut the performance down?
Yeah, for sure. We would be shutting this down, and they would be punished afterward.
Meanwhile, the first brief glimpse of Madonna. After a week of doubts, one Eurovision insider is now confident she will perform.
Yes, that's right. Eurovision's boss has now confirmed Madonna will be performing, singing her 1989 hit, Like a Prayer. Well, still ahead, batteries thrown in the bin and compacted in rubbish trucks are sparking dangerous blazes. We look at one council's ambitious solution. And an emotional farewell for a much-loved vessel back on the water for its first voyage after a major setback.
And a southerly change brings showers to much of the country for a time. I'll have your outlook for Sunday after sport.
When he was a boy, there was 3 things he wanted to be.
One was a farmer, second was a truck driver, and third was a butcher.
He drew the dream.
We've got 7 farms in total.
Now he's living it.
The cat in the lolly shop.
Sunday Country Calendar, Sunday on 1.
For many smart TVs, the TVNZ On Demand app can be found on the main menu or home screen. If your TV has an app store, try searching for TVNZ On Demand there. TVNZ On Demand. It's yours.
We'll meet nearly 80,000 people in our lives, but only a few will be special. Nescafe Gold Original, finely crafted with a rich, full taste for the people and moments that matter. Nescafe Gold, when taste matters.
At TradeMe, we've come up with a way you can buy with confidence every time. When you pay with Ping, you're protected if anything goes wrong. Pay with Ping and trust every trade, even if you're buying from Gorilla Fists 157.
Who made parenting so complicated? At Carry Care Toddler, we believe good doesn't need to be complicated, especially when it comes to nutrition. That's why we put in the ingredients that matter and leave out the added preservatives and artificial flavors. Carry Care Toddler, only what matters. Grab a red hot bargain this weekend only at Apple Warehouse. Get this deal on 50-inch HDTV and a hotline starting $399, the Acer Flying Remote with Power $599, and its washing machine and dryer combo only $799 this weekend at the warehouse. Your kids say your account could be missing out on tens of thousands of dollars.
Bacon chicken tender crisp from Burger King. Practicing. Great follow-up question.
Sunday, things go from sweet.
Perfect.
Yuck!
Hey, in the car, quick, we have left a table full of people. This is not good.
New MKR, Sunday at 7, continues Monday and Tuesday on 2.
The people will rise up in anger.
Simmering tensions
I'm not scared of you.
Where is it?
and rising passions. We're moving to a secret address.
How would anyone know how to find us?
Are an intoxicating mix. Is there someone you wish to be found by?
I hate you!
Les Miserables, Sunday 8:30 on 1.
Fires sparked by batteries in rubbish trucks and dumps in Christchurch.